on this, but I strongly encourage you, as a skeptic or an inquirer, you should say, you know what, give me all the evidence. I want to hear it all, not just a little bit of it, which again I think is just completely ironic. And right now there's a Texas Board of Education battle going on in the courts. It's not even to get intelligent design in the classrooms. All it's saying is, can we at least teach all the facts about evolution, the good and the bad? Absolutely not. I mean, you can Google this because it's pretty recent. So we just can't say all the facts? No! Well, we don't even want to talk about intelligent design. Let's just tell about all the facts of evolution. No! Why not? Well, we don't want, you know, because it's a pretty rocky theory and it's going to discredit it if you say all the facts. Just tell the good facts. That's indoctrination, not education. But again, we'll get more into that. I'm not going to touch a lot on evolution. On the next part, we're going to briefly, or on the third part actually, I'm going to touch on that and just kind of roll that into geology and a few other things, just to kind of quickly give you a snapshot education on evolution, just so you can, and again, 100% factual, I'm just taking the facts. I mean, it's not like I'm putting my own little twist on any of this, so you can at least be more prepared to answer those type of questions. Back to the anthropic principle, which describes the fine-tuning that we see. I mean, a coincidence that the oxygen we breathe is exactly right. The area that we live is exactly right. I mean, there's so many variables, it is just crazy. In physics and cosmology, the anthropic principle is the collective name for several ways of asserting that physical and chemical theories, especially astrophysics and cosmology, need to take into account that there is life on Earth, and that of that life, Homo sapiens, has attained sapience. The only kind of a universe humans can occupy is one that is similar to the current one. Anthropic reasoning typically includes that the stability of structures essential for life, from atomic nuclei, you know, our cells, etc., etc., the whole universe depends on delicate balances between different fundamental forces. The balances are believed to occur only in a tiny fraction of possible universes, so that this universe appears fine-tuned for life. Anthropic reasoning attempts to explain and quantify this fine-tuning, and how fine-tuned is it. The fine-tuning argument for intelligent design begins by observing an eerie coincidence. The conditions of the universe are set precisely for the emergence and sustenance of human life. The conditions that need to be satisfied for the universe to permit human life are so remarkably exact that even a very slight variation in these conditions would result in a world that could not be. World wouldn't exist, sun wouldn't exist, life couldn't be allowed to exist. You know, I mean, from the gravity that holds our bodies together, the cells, the fact that our planet is, if we didn't have a moon, well, okay, then the planet wouldn't be able to coordinate the tides. If it was a little bit closer to the sun, it's too hot and we all burn up. If it's a little bit further away where it's too cold and we all freeze. A very eerie coincidence. That is why British astronomer Fred Hoyle remarked on his book Accidental Universe, page 18, or 118, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics, as well as chemistry and biology, and that there is no blind forces worth speaking about in nature. Let's briefly consider just a few examples of cosmic fine-tuning. Then I'll let you see some real experts, not an average Joe like myself, explain this in a lot more detail. There are 19. The pull of gravity, for example, is on a razor's edge for us to even be here. For stars to hold together, for stars to form, our planets to form, the strong nuclear force that holds together the nucleus of an atom, our cells, for us to be held together in general, all have the precise values they need to sustain life. There are 19 such universal constants that must each be perfectly fine-tuned. Another coincidence. Another example, as far as Oxford, or the evidence is so overwhelming that internationally acclaimed physicist at Arizona State, Paul Davies, has concluded that the bio-friendly nature of our universe looks like a fix. No scientific explanation for the universe can be complete without an account for this overwhelming appearance of design. Cosmic Jackpot, page 149. Another example to bring this point home is what happens when we try to assign a probability to the fine-tuning of these constants. Such probability would be like 1 to n. How big is n? Well, Oxford physicist Rogers Penrose concluded there are 19 universal constants that must be perfectly matched. And let's look at what a lot of times someone will object to, a typical question. They will say, you can't test God or design, therefore it cannot be the answer for creation. Well, first of all, what is a test? And let's give a given question. Now, if you're talking about a omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent God, all-powerful, of course, I mean, us as finite beings, we're not going to be able to test a infinite being. But we can test the other abilities, other probabilities. Again, it's, deduction, basically. If you're given a question, 5 times 5, and you have multiple choice, and you have these, 20, 21, 22, or other. Okay, now, this is vague. Other? Okay, well, let's just test the other ones then. 5 times 5 equals 20. No. 21? No. 22? No. Well, can we not conclude that D is the most logical answer, even though we don't know what D is? Again, it's, they could say, well, it still might be wrong. Well, it's true, but we're looking at a cumulative case argument, looking at all the facts and putting them together. And again, that ties back in the anthropic principle. Maintenance of life, as far as it being literally, basically, if you look at it, there is no plausible explanation for the anthropic principle. For things to be so perfectly matched, for us to be here, there's no explanation. There's no plausible explanation for the anthropic principle other than a cosmic designer, it would seem. Atheists must take extreme measures to deny the obvious. When they dream up theories that are not supported by any evidence, just go to Barnes & Noble or your local bookstore and just walk through the science section. Every month you'll see different magazines that have these crazy theories. We came from plants, we came from rocks, we came from aliens. I mean, it's bizarre. And the fact, so when they dream up theories that are not supported by any evidence, and in fact are actually impossible by their own standards, when you test them by their own mathematics, they have left the realm of reason and rationality and entered into the realm of blind faith. Believing without observation is exactly what atheists accuse religious people of doing. But ironically, it's the atheists who are pushing a religion of blind faith. Believers have a good reason, such as the Big Bang and the anthropic principle, for believing what they believe. Just to put it in their own terminology. Atheists really do not. The blind faith of atheists reveals that the rejection of a designer is not a head problem. It is as if a lack of intellectual justification for a designer. On the contrary, the evidence is impressive. What we have here is a will problem. Some people, despite the evidence, simply do not want to admit there's a designer. Just as science has been hindered throughout its history by atheists, not wishing to acknowledge the Big Bang initially because it could point to a creator, etc., spoke of the anthropic principle in the New York Times, and the critic said his real objection was totally emotional. And that's New York Times, October 2003. It smells of religion and intelligent design. So much for scientific objectivity. And again, another piece of the anthropic principle, just to go through a few quotes on here, just to kind of, not use James's word, let's use some real experts' words here.